Cycling is a sport that requires incredible strength, endurance, and mental fortitude. And over the past years, we've seen some truly remarkable riders come to the forefront of the sport. But when it comes to the greatest of all time, one name rises to the top: Eddy Merckx, known as the Cannibal. Merckx's dominance of the sport in the late 1960s and early 1970s was unparalleled. He won almost everything there was to win, from grand tours to classics, and set records that still stand to this day. But just how good was Eddy Merckx really? From his early years as an amateur, Merckx showed promise, winning his first races at the age of 17, but it wasn't until he turned pro after winning the Amateur World Championships where he really began to dominate the sport. Eddy Merckx's performances at the Grand Tours were nothing short of incredible. He won the Vuelta a España once. He also won the Giro d'Italia 5 times in his career, including 4 consecutive wins from 1970 to 1973. Eddy Merckx's 5 Giro d'Italia victories is a record that I shared with the other greats of the sport, Alfredo Binda and Fausto Coppi. His Giro d'Italia triumphs were marked by his consistency and sheer dominance. He won a total of 24 stage wins across his victories and also wore the Maglia Rosa, or the pink jersey, for a record 78 days in total. His 1973 victory was particularly impressive as he won the general classification and the mountains jersey, including winning 6 stages along the way, and he wore the Maglia Rosa from the prologue all the way to the finish in Milano. But it was at the Tour de France where Merckx truly cemented his legacy, as he won the race 5 times in his career, including an unprecedented 4 consecutive wins from 1969 to 1972. Along the way, he managed to pick up a record number of 34 stage wins and wore the yellow jersey for a record 96 days in his career. Merckx's Tour de France victories are still considered some of the most impressive in the race's history. His first overall victory came in the 1969 season, which was particularly remarkable as he won the race by over 17 minutes, down to second place, the largest winning margin in Tour de France history since then. On top of the large winning margin, he also won the Mountains jersey and the points classification, becoming the first rider to win all 3 in a single tour. That wasn't the only award he left the race with, as he also won the combination classification and the Combativity Award, and this is truly remarkable when you think that this was his first ever Tour de France appearance. In the following year, in 1970, Merckx went on to win the Tour de France yet again, this time only by 12 minutes, but he still amassed a total of 8 stage victories. He continued to dominate the race in 1971 and 1972, winning both editions by over 9 minutes. As well as winning the overall classification, he also picked up the points classification for a second year in a row and only finished second in the mountains classification. In 1973, he didn't enter the race, but in 1974, he was back to winning ways when he won the edition by just over 2 minutes, as well as winning 8 stages again along the way. The following year, Merckx did not win the race for the first time in his career, but still managed to finish second to the overall winner, despite being punched by a spectator on stage 14. The punch occurred during the Puy de Dôme as his fellow rivals Thévenet and Van Impe attacked. Merckx tried to follow the pace, and with about 150 meters from the line, Merckx was preparing to gear himself up for the sprint, but this was where the punch occurred on the back of the Belgian superstar. He crossed the line 34 seconds adrift of Thévenet and proceeded to vomit after crossing the finishing line, and the punch itself left a huge bruise on Eddy Merckx, and you could really feel the pain as the punch was straight to the kidney. The reason for the punch by the fan was speculated that Eddy Merckx, if he were to win this edition, that he would surpass the great man himself of Jacques Anquetil. Despite facing fierce competition from riders such as Raymond Poulidor and Joop Zoetemelk, Merckx remained at the top of his game until the very end of his career. Merckx's success at the Grand Tours was definitely something to behold, but he was not just limited to these, as he also had a plethora of wins at the monuments. He won each of the 5 races multiple times, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest one-day riders of all time as well. At Milan San Remo, he won the race 7 times throughout his career, making him the most successful rider in the race's history. His first victory came on the very first appearance in 1966 when he was just 21 years old. Merckx's second win came the following year in 1967, and he followed up with victories in 1969, 1971, 1972, 1975, and even 1976. In the Tour of Flanders, Merckx won the race twice in 1996 and 1975. He also narrowly missed out on winning the race in 1973, finishing in 3rd place, and his success continued at Paris-Roubaix, which was a race he won on 3 occasions in 1968, 1970, and 1973. His victory in the race in 1970 was by more than 5 minutes, down to his fellow great and rival Roger de Vlaming. At Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Merckx won the race 5 times in 1969, 1971, 1972, 1973, and his final win came in 1975. Plus, he was also on the podium in 1967 and 1970, and in all his appearances at the race, he finished inside the top 8 throughout his career, which was very impressive. In the final monument, the Giro di Lombardia, also known as the Race of the Falling Leaves, Merckx showed his dominance again as he managed to win the race in 1971 and 1972. As the nature of racing back then, Merckx entered most of the 5 monuments in all the years he was racing, and the Cannibal managed to win 3 out of 5 monuments in one season, which is truly a remarkable feat, showing just the versatility of the man himself. And we haven't even touched on the one-day races that aren't considered monuments, but as we know, Merckx was truly dominant in all terrains, and he even managed to win La Flèche Wallonne 3 times and get Wevelgem 3 times, as well as Amstel Gold. But this sheer appetite for winning is probably best put in the words of someone who knows him very well, so I will hand over to the son of the greatest of all time, none other than Axel Merckx.
So I didn't know him racing. He was too young when he was racing, so I was 6 when he retired. But I mean, obviously, I knew of my dad. I saw the videotapes, and first of all, it's a big pride to see his accomplishment and how impressive his palmarès is. And I always knew I was never going to be able to be the same as he was. Obviously, he had a lot of passion for cycling as an athlete and won a lot of races. Still after his career, he built a bike business and he was involved in coaching national teams and stuff like that. And he's always stuck around cycling because of me also, because once your son races, you get involved. But it's just basically my goal was, or it still is that he gives cycling so much, and he gives such a big legacy, is that I need to respect that legacy. I need to respect the name that he has, and if I can leave something behind that I contribute to the history of the name through the years, even past his cycling and business career and cycling, if I can leave something behind as Axel Merckx did something for cycling also. He did something very positive, and he left a legacy behind that his dad started. That's something that I would be very proud of.
Throughout his career, Eddy Merckx was also successful in one-week stage races. He won the Critérium du Dauphiné in 1971, he won the Tour de Suisse in 1974, and Paris-Nice on 3 occasions. His success in these races further highlight his versatility as a cyclist and his ability to perform consistently across different types of races and terrain. Merckx's achievements on the bike are almost too gigantic to list. In addition to his victories in the Grand Tours and the Monuments, he won the World Championships 3 times in 1967, 1971, and 1974. This was where he won the first Triple Crown in cycling by winning the Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France, and the World Championships in the same season, a feat that has only been achieved once since he achieved it. Merckx's career was filled with numerous records and stats, many of which still stand to this day. He holds the record for the most wins in a single season with 54 in 1971, and he also holds the all-time winning record for the most pro career victories with a total of 525. Merckx's legacy in cycling is undeniable. His ability to win races of all types and distances, his dominance at the Grand Tours, his unparalleled success in the monuments have cemented his place in cycling history forever. He has inspired countless riders and continues to be a source of inspiration for many to this day. So how good was Eddy Merckx really? Well, let's just say he was the greatest cyclist of all time. That's it for this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, comment down below what you think of Eddy Merckx as a rider, and of course, as always, thank you for watching and have a nice day.